Everyone's favourite kind of hobby horse here is to talk about the connected fridge, right? So using that as an example, I think that the boundary between industries could be blurred in the context of something like a connected fridge. So for example, it would appear that the connected fridge might be best created by someone like Samsung or a white goods manufacturer, whereas actually it's the service layer which is going to be really important for things like a connected fridge. So perhaps it would be better developed by someone like Tesco or Sainsbury's. So as a result, you're going to see these new products creating new service categories and new layers of service in order to sort of deliver the things to people in the way they want them.
I think the Internet of Things will be incredibly disruptive for different silos, not just between companies but also within companies. I think currently we see different sectors, and inside companies we see different departments. I think technology in general is making those departments dissolve a bit. I think the role of marketing and the role of supply chain will become very intrinsically linked.
As we see connected products roll out, I think the companies that make products, have a real choice about whether they get on board with this. And if they do, then I think they're going to be in a position of strength, because it's much harder to grow a physical product off of the back of a digital service than it is to grow a digital service off the back of a physical product. So I think if it's embraced by companies that do manufacturing, then they have a huge advantage and that they can dominate it, I suppose. I think if they're too slow, then potentially people that are much more digitally native and the organisations that are dominating the digital world will be in a position of strength and will end up in a scenario where the manufacturers of objects are kind of having to work with those digital providers in order to create connected products and potentially pay them a lot of money and license fees and things like that. And I guess we're already starting to see that with HomeKit from Apple, where they're going to get whatever, I don't know what the percentage is, but they're going to get a percentage on everything that connects, and that's going to be a lot, I think. So they're probably potentially going to do to the whole of the consumer electronics industry what they've just done to music, which is kind of quite frightening if you're working in the consumer electronics industry.
The Internet of Things and connected objects in general are really going to blur a lot of different industry segments. So one of the ideas that we were talking about in the panel today was around sort of virtual tourism, right? And so you could easily imagine how in a world where perhaps there is a fuel shortage and travel becomes exponentially more expensive, what does that mean for business? What does that mean for politics? What does it mean for tourism and travel? I think you could easily imagine a kind of device or product or service that meets that kind of distributed virtual kind of presence, and easily imagine how that could sort of roll up and meet the needs of a number of different industries, from travel to politics to business, even medicine. And once you have that kind of service like that, that becomes a sort of flag planted in the sand for whatever company controls that product to really start to slam a lot of different industries together and have an impact that way.
If you're spending a bunch of time at the moment thinking about how marketing and the Internet of Things could come together to create new experiences, I think you're perhaps going off in the wrong track, because if you think a lot of marketing to date has been focused on imagery and screens, certainly digital in screens and television in screens, and then before that sort of storytelling and traditional kind of narratives. Whereas actually a lot of Internet of Things and connected devices do not have a screen. Right, so you've got to think about the context in which that object exists and why it's performing the job it performs. It's not just a new kind of marketing channel. So I think in order for brands and in order for marketeers to develop strategies that involve Internet of Things connected objects, they've got to think a little bit more closely about providing value and providing a new product or a new service for customers and consumers, as opposed to piggybacking on something that already exists and jamming messages down people's throats.
I think marketing and brand marketers in particular are going to be challenged in part because of how invisible that sort of web of everything around us will be. So I think even right now with something like the Nest was designed to be very much a beautiful object, the kind of thing that isn't the dumb white plastic box that you hide in a broom closet. Rather, it's something that you kind of have on display in the hallway. But that still becomes something that you ignore 9 times out of 10. So I think there's going to be a disruption in how much affinity we have for brands because they're just going to get mashed together in the framework that drives the Internet of Things.
I think the role of a brand marketer is going to change in guise. I think it's going to become a lot more integrated into what the company really is doing. I personally think brand marketing is actually a really incredibly powerful tool of which to shape kind of companies' technology direction. And I think the more connected we become, the more dependent on technology and the more our products are infused with tech, the brand marketer is going to have to become a data analyst.
In terms of brand marketers' involvement in the Internet of Things, it feels like at the moment they're quite involved because a lot of the action is in the kind of, we made this cool demo thing and we made a video and it went viral and isn't it wicked? And I feel like potentially as we start to create actual mainstream products that are actually succeeding in the market and being produced at scale, potentially the brand marketers' involvement might kind of recede a little bit and the product designers' involvement might become more central because that you're trying to create something that actually fits a need. And so then I suppose the brand marketer's in a situation of trying to explain what that is, and that's not necessarily straightforward because connected products are really complicated and often quite difficult to explain. So you still need to be able to tell really compelling stories about them, but fundamentally the products need to be built around actual user needs.